Tonight, election 2022.
We must pour every ounce of our energy into winning a historic victory.
Republicans look to win control of Congress.
We've got the best message. We have to articulate it well.
The strategies they're employing a year out from the midterm elections. And a warning.
How close do you think Iran is getting to a nuclear weapon?
Very close.
The threat to Israel.
Electricity, water, food, supermarket, hospital.
And what the Jewish state is doing to be prepared. Plus,
God just put it in my mind, sanctuary city for the unborn.
The rise of cities protecting the pro-life movement. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation.
The GOP and enormous fundraising ahead of next year's midterm elections. Good evening, I'm Jenna Browder.
And hello there, I'm John Jessup. Republicans are raking in the big bucks in their bid to win control of the U.S. House of Representatives in 2022. Already this year, the National Republican Congressional Committee broke records, raising nearly $80 million.
Now, with the midterm still a year away, Democrats are hoping to keep their slim majorities in both the House and the Senate. But Republicans feel like the momentum is on their side.
CBN Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson has more on where things stand in tonight's top story.
In 2022, Republicans are specifically targeting 57 vulnerable Democrat House and Senate seats. While former President Donald Trump won't be on the ballot, he's making it clear he will very much be a part of these races.
Now, for the next 16 months, we must pour every ounce of our energy into winning a historic victory in the midterm.
This past weekend, Trump took credit for expanding the GOP's base and believes his supporters will help Republicans win big.
We will lead the conservative movement and the Republican Party back to victory, and it will be a greater victory than this party has ever had.
RNC spokesperson Paris Denard tells CBN News Trump will definitely play a role.
When it comes to electing Republican candidates, his support is important.
Denard also believes the key for Republicans will be recruiting diverse candidates.
Look at the last election. We had won over a dozen seats that we flipped from Democrat to Republican. Those seats were won by either a Republican woman, a Republican veteran, or a Republican minority.
And when asked if the RNC will support outspoken Trump critics like Representatives Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger,
if they're out of touch or out of step with where the Republican constituents are, they'll be voted out of office.
Denard argues the GOP needs to remain united on the broader goal.
We have to be focused on making sure that the Democrats are held accountable. Republicans need not to have this party infighting and this palace intrigue that the media just feeds off of. It does us no good.
Republicans need to gain just a single seat in the Senate and 5 seats in the House to win the majority, with the main battleground states being Georgia, Arizona, Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, and Nevada.
We're talking about such narrow majorities.
Inside Elections, Nathan Gonzalez told CBN News' Faith Nation it's too early to tell which party has the advantage.
I'm not sure we're ever going to have a clear idea about who has a firm control because the majority is so narrow. And in the House, we're in a holding pattern because we are in a redistricting cycle, and the states have not yet finalized their new congressional maps. So we don't know what the districts look like.
Unless Democrats hold the House and substantially expand their Senate majority, it's unclear if President Biden will be able to accomplish much more of his agenda without working with Republicans. Reporting from Capitol Hill, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
All right, thank you, Abby. Well, President Biden was on Capitol Hill today to discuss funding for his infrastructure plans. Democrats have proposed spending $3.5 trillion on human infrastructure over the next 10 years. That money going to expanding Medicare and child care, universal pre-K, paid family leave, and major investments in environmental initiatives. Today, CBN News spoke with Virginia Democratic Senator Mark Warner. He sits on the Budget Committee that proposed this newest spending plan.
I'm going to do my best to try to convince people that this is the moment when we need to make the kind of investment in childcare, in preschool, in dealing with the challenges around the climate. It's going to be a long process. The first step is just kind of agreeing on a top line number.
Democrats say the plan is fully paid for, although no details have yet been made available. President Biden is pushing to fund it by taxing corporations and wealthy Americans. This new $1 trillion plan is in addition to an already proposed $600 billion in funding to upgrade traditional infrastructure, things like roads and bridges. That brings the total spending to more than $4 trillion. It's unlikely there will be enough Republican support to pass through both chambers of Congress, so Democrats intend to bypass the opposition using a legislative procedure known as the budget reconciliation process. Budget reconciliation requires only 50 votes to pass, with the vice president acting as the tie-breaking vote.
Well, here now, Ray Suarez, veteran Washington journalist. Ray, let's just start right there. Earlier today, President Biden was on Capitol Hill to rally support for this new $3.5 trillion proposal. How much does this affect the chances of passing the bipartisan Senate deal? Does the attempt to pass both mean Democrats lose Republican support when it comes to traditional infrastructure?
You know, it's going to be hard to run against infrastructure spending next year, and I'm not hearing a lot of that in the latest political calculations. You're going to have a lot of Republican incumbents who are going to be forced to go out to their states and say, look, I voted against fixing the bridges. I voted against modernizing the electric grid. That may be a tough vote in some places in the country. But, you know, not only does Biden have to try to woo Republicans, he has to keep all 48 Democrats and the 2 independents that caucus with them on his side, and that's not a foregone conclusion. Joe Manchin says he's taking a look at the package. Kyrsten Sinema of Arizona with a similar non-committal pledge to assess the budget deal and see if she likes it.
Yeah. Well, Ray, we want to talk to you about the midterm elections. Republicans have already raised a staggering $80 million in hopes of taking over control of the House, which is a record-breaking amount. What do you make of that?
Well, you know, the House in the latest apportionment is losing seats in states that supported Joe Biden last fall and gaining seats in states that voted against him last fall. That has to put some wind at the Republicans' back, along with the fundraising. But, you know, this is a very unpredictable season. This is going to be a heck of a midterm election. We've got analysts left, right, and center saying the economy is going to be growing robustly at the end of the year. If we've got 6.5% and 7% growth in the last quarters of this year and the first quarters of next year, that's going to help Biden's argument to the country. Yes, it's going to be tough for Democrats in some of those suburban districts that helped Joe Biden become president last year. But, you know, this many months before the 2020 election, who had heard of the novel coronavirus? There was no pandemic. So you have to make room in your calculations for the unpredictable and the unknowable. This is still a very unsettled political season and hard to handicap.
Ray, in the few seconds we have left, sticking with 2022, what do you see as some of the biggest issues for voters ahead of the midterm elections next year in about 30 seconds or so?
I would say the ongoing response to the pandemic. Are there still lots of new infections? Will the uptake on vaccinations improve? Will people who have been reluctant so far agree to get the vaccine? What's going to happen in Afghanistan after the last American troops are out of there and the Taliban continues to make its march and take over the country? Will it look like it was a 20-year failure? And just how are people feeling? If there's economic growth that's robust, if people feel like the world is getting back to normal after the coronavirus, that may create at least some good feeling for the Biden effort.
All right, Ray, we have to leave it there this evening, but Ray Suarez, we appreciate you coming on. It's great to see you.
Good to see you.
Thanks, Ray. Well, stay home in your country. That's the warning from the head of Homeland Security to Cubans and Haitians trying to flee the political unrest plaguing those two nations. DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas says, quote, "The time is never right to attempt migration by sea. To those who risk their lives doing so, this risk is not worth taking." He added, "Allow me to be clear. If you take to the sea, you will not come to the United States. Mayorkas, whose own family fled to the United States from Cuba, says any would-be refugees intercepted by American authorities would be returned to their country of origin or handed over to other nations for resettlement.
To the coronavirus crisis in America and a spike in U.S. cases. Over the past 3 weeks, the number of confirmed cases across the country has doubled. On Monday, there were more than 23,000 new confirmed infections, up from about 11,000 on June 23rd. In Arkansas, hospitalizations have risen 64% in just 2 weeks.
All of our ICUs and our medical beds, surgical beds are completely full. There's a little bit of disbelief that are we really going through this again?
And doctors say the rise in cases is due to the spread of the Delta variant and lagging vaccination rates.
A warning over weapons. Coming up, why Israel says dangers on the horizon when it comes to Iran's nuclear program. That and more when Faith Nation returns.
Having sex before you marry is a bad idea.
Don't tell me there's no such thing as gun violence.
That just depends on your definition of when life begins.
Watch Dan and Dale tackle trending topics that test your faith on the next Faith Wire. Monday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel. The Global Lane takes you around the world, providing facts over fiction.
What might rising trade and geopolitical tensions mean for you on the home front?
With over 45 years of experience, award-winning journalist Gary Lane brings you the truth from a global angle.
What about the issue of immigration?
World news analysis you won't see anywhere else.
And it's all right here on the Global Lane.
Thursday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Welcome back. The U.S. will soon be evacuating Afghans who helped American military efforts during the nearly 20-year war there. The Associated Press reporting removals will begin the last week of July. The move comes as U.S. troops exit Afghanistan ahead of the president's Labor Day withdrawal deadline. Meanwhile, there appears to be a partisan split over support of the withdrawal. A new Politico Morning Consult poll finds 76% of Democrats support the move, while only 43% of Republicans agree with the withdrawal.
Well, U.S. intelligence uncovered a plot by the Iranian regime to kidnap an American citizen for criticizing Iran's strict religious laws for women. Mesa Alenijad, an Iranian-born writer and activist living in New York, worked with the FBI after learning of the alleged plot to abduct her from her home in Brooklyn. In an interview with the Associated Press, she vowed to keep speaking out.
I give voice to the mothers whose children got killed, got shot in the head, got shot in the chest, got tortured to death in prison. I give voice to those women inside Iran who say no to compulsory hijab, who say that we want to be our true self. If you arrest me, you're going to keep them silent? No.
Prosecutors charged an Iranian intelligence officer and several others, according to an unsealed indictment. Well, in Israel, nuclear experts are issuing a new warning about the resumption of the Iranian nuclear deal.
As CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell reports from Jerusalem, they say despite the dangers, the U.S. and other nations seem to be in a hurry to renew the deal.
These experts are part of the World Nuclear Forum, scientists who believe Iran is masquerading its nuclear program as a peaceful effort while maintaining a long-range plan to develop weapons.
It's not just a country that wants to become
a nuclear power. It's an extreme religious country with the ideology of the Islamic Revolution to establish a hegemony over the region and even global hegemony, and with the intention to annihilate Israel.
They point out the original 2015 agreement focused on enriching uranium, but failed to address Iran's long-range ballistic missiles or warhead research, while flooding Iran with billions of dollars.
Immediately after that money was released, you start seeing proliferation of terror organizations. It's Hezbollah, it's Hamas, it's the Houthi in Yemen. So you start seeing that immediately. It's clearly a cause and effect thing.
These experts, including a Nobel Prize nominee, believe Iran may already have a nuclear weapon.
How close do you think Iran is getting to a nuclear weapon?
Very close. If not, they have it already. So all of the world, all the superpowers, all looking about the uranium. But uranium is only one slice of the pizza.
I find it hard to believe that a country that's such high-tech developed as Iran, working on it so many years, doesn't have at least one nuclear weapon, especially since they're connected to North Korea.
One expert predicts Iran would likely negotiate to dilute its highly enriched uranium in pursuit of a new agreement. He believes that's solely to manipulate public opinion and would have no impact.
It's not a problem for them within a few months to enrich to military grade and produce enough bombs to make it a threat against preemptive attack, which is exactly what the North Koreans did.
While some may dismiss a nuclear Iran, these scientists agree that just one nuclear weapon used as an EMP, an electronic magnetic pulse, could destroy a country's power grid and way of life.
Electricity, water, food, supermarket, hospitals. If you have a problem with an EMP, you have a real life problem, even in a great and big country like the United States.
This expert and intelligence officer helped with the 1981 Israeli strike that destroyed Saddam Hussein's atomic reactor. The experts say any agreement needs teeth.
You must have a ready-to-go, well-cooked military option. That's a must for the agreement.
In the meantime, Prime Minister Naftali Bennett has launched a review of Israel's Iran policy. The review will address if Israel is better or worse off if the U.S. re-enters the deal, how Israel can influence the Biden administration, and an Israeli military option. The review comes before Bennett's meeting with President Biden, scheduled for later this month. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Outlawing abortion. Up next, how some cities are leading the charge and preparing to defend themselves in court.
Want to be a part of a community that inspires your spiritual growth while winning prizes? The all-new CBN app. Connect with the community for prayer and encouragement. Track and set spiritual goals. Enjoy conversation starters with friends and family. And collect points to win prizes. The all-new CBN app. A great place to belong. Download the app at cbn.com/mobile. Grow, connect, have fun. The all-new CBN app.
On the home front.
Thanks for joining us for CBN's On the Home Front, where we highlight what the men and women of America's military do to defend our country. CBN honors the men and women in our military with an initiative called Helping the Home Front. It partners with churches across the country to meet the needs of their military families, from repairing homes to wiping out medical bills for wounded veterans.
Wednesday at 3 on the CBN News Channel.
Too often, we carry baggage from our past. You know what it's like. It affects everything and everyone in our lives. It's always there, weighing us down and keeping us from achieving true happiness. But do you know God never meant for us to be trapped in the past? You can be free of your baggage. Learn how God's forgiveness leads to changed lives and new beginnings. Call the 700 Club.
To the battle over abortion, tonight the spotlight on Texas, where pro-choice advocates have filed a lawsuit seeking to block a new state law. The law they're targeting bans abortion after 6 weeks of pregnancy. It also allows Texans to sue anyone who helps a woman get an abortion. Successful challenges could pocket someone as much as $10,000. Planned Parenthood and the ACLU are among those bringing the suit. They say the law is unconstitutional and will subject abortion providers to endless lawsuits and shut down clinics.
Well, we've all likely heard the term sanctuary city, and it's taking on a new meaning that's spreading across the country, no longer associated only as safe havens for immigrants, but also places that offer protection for the unborn by banning abortion.
The questions surround the trend. Can the movement survive court challenges? And how might it influence efforts to overturn Roe v. Wade? Senior National Affairs correspondent Heather Sells reports.
Lebanon, Ohio is the latest community to declare itself a sanctuary city for the unborn. There is no abortion clinic here, but city leaders say that's not the point.
Sometimes being an elected official means you step out.
Longtime Mayor Amy Brewer says Lebanon wants to make it clear abortion providers are not welcome.
Without being proactive, something like this could come into our community and we would be unable to stop it.
Of course, not everyone here supports the ordinance. Those who oppose it say it's simply beyond the scope of this small town and that it will harm women who are seeking an abortion.
Abortion bans do not stop abortions. They only stop safe abortions. If you pass this, the number of back alley abortions will go up.
In late May, the city council heard from both sides of the issue for 4 hours, then voted unanimously to pass the ordinance. City leaders say their intent is neither to harm women nor prevent them from getting an abortion outside of Lebanon.
It is specifically written to say the mother that is in this situation needs mercy. There is no penalty for them whatsoever.
Those individuals within our community who share a different perspective than I do still have those same opportunities, those same resources.
That includes a local pregnancy center for women in crisis. City leaders credit a college student, 19-year-old Josh Beckman, with suggesting the ordinance.
God just put it in my mind, sanctuary city for the unborn.
They also credit the president, whose strong abortion support emboldened their pro-life commitment.
President Biden has said that he wants abortion access available in every single zip code of this country. We have our own zip code and we have a people that we want to be able to protect.
Mike Gonadakis leads Ohio Right to Life and says his phone started ringing off the hook after Lebanon passed its ban.
You're going to start seeing cities, townships, and villages across the state of Ohio passing these. We believe county commissioners will pass these as well.
Outside Ohio, movement leaders say communities in half a dozen states are considering bans as well. The big hope for these pro-life leaders comes in the fall at the Supreme Court. Justices will hear the Dobbs case, which directly challenges Roe v. Wade and Casey v. Planned Parenthood. It contests a Mississippi law forbidding abortions after 15 weeks. Gonadakis says a slew of local abortion bans this summer could send a strong signal to the court.
We can send letters and we can send emails, but if we have our local governments telling them by passing ordinances and laws that we want to end this, the court's going to listen.
Regent University law professor Brad Jacob isn't so sure, saying it's debatable just how important such cultural cues are in the court's decision-making.
I'm not sure that a popular opinion poll is going to sway very many of the justices.
And the reality is Americans are split on abortion. A June Gallup poll found 52% think it should be illegal or legal in only a few circumstances. 45% support it in all or most. Jacob and other scholars say the local abortion bans could pose legal pitfalls, depending on how they're crafted.
The city ordinance might be flat unconstitutional. They could get hauled into federal court.
Another challenge, state politics.
A city or a county is a creature of state law. And ultimately, if the state doesn't like what the city is doing, the state can find a way to stop it.
So far, the bans in these sanctuary cities remain. Most recently, a federal judge in Texas dismissed a Planned Parenthood lawsuit trying to overturn a voter-approved measure in Lubbock. Here in Ohio, the Lebanon mayor is prepared for such a challenge. Her yes vote, she says, has already led to personal threats.
We took a bold move. We took a brave move. And you can do one of two things. You can be an elected official and ride the fence and do nothing. Or you can do what you feel is best and take a stand on something.
For Brewer and other backers of these bans, it's important to take that stand, at least within their own city limits. Reporting in Lebanon, Ohio, Heather Sells, CBN News.
All right, thank you, Heather. A holy homecoming, how Pope Francis marked his release from the hospital.
Are you suffering from feeling tired or worn out during the day? Can you not turn off your brain at night? You are not alone. Hi, I'm Dr. Michael Bruce, the sleep doctor, and I've partnered with the Christian Broadcasting Network, and we're going to bring you some unbelievable information that you can use tonight to get a better night's rest.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free copy of Protect Your Sleep today.
Nutrition, exercise, essential oils, weight loss, and more. It's Healthy Living with Lori Johnson.
Talk about what's in this.
Join CBN health reporter Lori Johnson to get the latest information from today's top health experts.
This is fantastic.
Find out what you need to know to live a healthier life. Watch Healthy Living Tuesday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
Millsburg Falls man, come.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes too, and so much more. Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon. It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
Finally tonight, Pope Francis is back at home at the Vatican.
The Pope's return to the Holy See comes after a 10-day hospitalization following intestinal surgery. Released from the hospital today, the 84-year-old pontiff took a detour on his way home, stopping at a church to pray for others and to give thanks for a successful operation. Despite the health scare, the Pope isn't canceling future travel plans. He's set to visit to Hungary, Slovakia, and Scotland this fall. Quite the travel itinerary.
Yeah, and he looks good. He looks like he's moving pretty well there. So we wish him well, and we're glad to see a full recovery.
Absolutely. Thanks for watching Faith Nation.
Have a great night.